I've finished a few other video games lately. I figured I'd talk about here, even though I didn't play them on Twitch. Because yes, I play some stuff in my own time every now and again. And if I talk about them, I can write off the cost of having bought them on my taxes. So here we go. Probably shouldn't have given you that peek behind the scenes. Whatever, we'll go with it. The Darkside Detective. This is a pixel art point and click adventure. And it is very much in the vein of, older style things, sort of. I could say Monkey Island, like the original, but like it's not quite kind of trying to do that level of intricacy. It's pretty straightforward as far as the format goes. I'll get to the theming in a minute. But as far as the format goes, you start initially with 6 cases. You are a detective, and you can go through these cases and you learn about how the supernatural events of the area in which you live sort of seep into things. You have to deal with these things as they come up. Pretty much every case involves some degree of supernatural things, and it runs the gamut from ghosts to gremlins to monsters to zombies and all kinds of stuff. So you've got all this to deal with, and the puzzle structure is pretty simple. It's the kind of puzzles where odds are you're rarely going to get stuck unless you have failed to notice that like something is interactable. Like pretty much the only times I got stuck were because I hadn't realized that there was something that I could either add to my inventory or click on to interact with. Because it is one of those things where once all the pieces are in play, like once you know the scenario and you have all the inventory items and you know what you know everything going on, you're gonna figure out these puzzles. They're not difficult. This is not a particularly brain teasery kind of game. It's pretty straightforward. That having been said, relatively straightforward puzzling gameplay can still be a lot of fun if you thread it through entertaining characters or scenarios. And that is where Darkside Detective really shines. It has a wonderfully blended sense of absurdity, humor, and also just that kind of safe darkness. Like I said, there's a lot of dark things. There's ghosts, there's zombies, there's all this stuff. But, everyone's just kind of like, oh, well, this is what we're dealing with today. All right. Your character who you play this is just another day on the job. And the tonally, it's definitely taking cues from things like Twin Peaks, and this absurdity is just the way the world is. But the characters are also a lot of fun. Like your partner Dooley, he's great. Like he does a ton of stuff that I love. But like the one I keep thinking of is when the two of you are looking like in a subway and there's graffiti up, and he looks at it and goes, "Huh, that." Oh no, you first go. I can't believe they did this to the wall. And Dooley goes, "Yeah, I know. When I tag, my lines are way cleaner than that." And your character's like, "What did you just say?" And Dooley's like, "Hey, don't you say anything, narc." It's like, you're a cop. It's like, that's just Dooley. And like, that's the kind of sense of humor. And there's lots of off the wall bonkers characters, and just some who are just kind of looking at all the strangeness going on, going, okay. Or to give you another taste of sort of the overall sense of humor of this thing, is there's a case in a library where you're dealing with ghosts. And before you can see the ghosts, earlier on, you go to like the fiction section, and there's, sci-fi and there's fantasy. And in between, like right in the middle of each of these sections, is a chess game, and appears to be playing itself, like the pieces are moving. And once you can see the ghosts, you realize that on the fantasy side of the chessboard is the ghost of Terry Pratchett, and on the science fiction side, it's the ghost of Douglas Adams. So there's lots of those kinds of references, that kind of self-awareness, and it's kind of just really fun and funny to figure out what these characters will or won't accept. Like, they accept at face value so much strangeness, but then something fairly mundane, they'll be like, I'm sorry, what? And it's just, it keeps you on your toes and it makes it fun to go through. I mentioned that there's 6 cases initially. There's 9 in total. It's not a particularly long playthrough, but I found each case just to be like a fun little, almost kind of palate cleansing experience to play through. Again, not particularly difficult. And the few times that I ended up looking up a walkthrough, like, I should explain this with games. Like, I have no shame about looking up walkthroughs because it has to do with the reason I'm stuck. Like, I'll avoid walkthroughs if it's a case of, like, okay, there's all these things and I just need to figure out how it works together. I would like to figure that out for myself. But if I find myself going, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. What is the game? Well, I don't know what to do. I'm not going to go through and meticulously try and go through every single possible thing I can think of, even if it doesn't make sense, just because I don't know what's going on, because that's not fun. So if I ever find myself in that situation, I will check a walkthrough. But as I said before, the few times that I checked a walkthrough, it pretty much always turned out that there was an item I could have added to my inventory that I didn't realize I could pick up. Or there was an interactable object that I'd failed to click on. Or if I had, it would have given me a, another indicator that I was somehow missing. So I do think it, while not being particularly difficult, these are inventory object puzzles. It's not even logic puzzles. It is, these are the objects you have. Here are the things you can interact with. What item do you add to what other thing in order to get a result? And sometimes it's incredibly logical, like just, you have a key, here's a locked door, go for it. And sometimes it is a bit more abstracted, but still not too difficult. Like, here's your jerk-ass coworker who won't get out of your way, and he's telling you to go fetch him coffee. Here's a laxative. Maybe put that in his coffee. So, there's slightly more roundabout solutions. But again, once you're tuned into the wavelength, even the more roundabout solutions, they're going to feel pretty logical. But overall, I think the main reason to play this is the tone and the fun and the humor of it. If nothing that I've described to you struck you as funny, like, I'm not saying you had to laugh out loud, because maybe the way I described it is not going to bring across the full impact of the joke. But if none of those seemed like your kind of humor, maybe give it a pass. But if any of that seemed interesting to you at all, I'd say give it a go. It's just a fun way to unwind with some nifty characters and some humorous settings with a slightly dark feel and tone to them, but aren't actually dark, or they're actually quite funny. So yeah, give it a try. The Darkside Detective. Have you played it? What did you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Patreon's what pays the bills around here and gives me the money that I can afford to buy these things that I will then later write off on my taxes, because I did a video review on them. But if you don't want to help me out that way, like, share, and subscribe also help as well. But don't worry too much about it. We take a relaxed attitude around here, so you can come on back next time you need a break. Time to give my thanks to my highest supporting patrons. That would include Robin Moore, Zubin Lutfullah, Tarak, the thing that goes doink in the anime, Oliver B., Melinda Walters, Emu Delkey, Theotha Boyd, Becky Sparks, Fernabi Likes the Poodle, Zach, Idolin, Tracy Scrabbit, Angry Casperl, Adam RDL Taylor, Shane Ross, Shaylee Gourlay, Brendan LaRose, and TT. If you want your name said while these guys try and distract me, consider looking at the rewards of my Patreon.